Hey guys, I want you to check out my website. There's some interesting changes that have occurred to it. I don't know if you've been to my website ever, but if you've been to it recently, you'll know there's like a kind of mapping application that's operating as a backdrop for the front page of the website. That mapping thing is quite, it's more advanced than what the backdrop of a website shows. It just looks like a big image and that zooms in and zooms out. But you would be surprised, how much it would slow down your mobile phone if that was actually a big image. That's actually a bunch of tiled images shown at different resolutions as you scroll down the website. So that there's like a whole, map tiling API that is behind that backdrop on the front screen. So I've updated the source code, and this is what I've produced. So, I want you to check this out. So if you go to the Oranos website, and I think the best link for it is in the front page. If you go down to the news section, you see the second article in the news is a link, gives you a link to this flat earth. As you can see, the earth is as flat as a pancake. At least it looks as flat as a pancake when you're putting together all the data. So what you've got here is like a big massive image of the earth that's 4 billion pixels wide by 4 billion pixels tall. And if I was to put that onto your phone or onto your tablet or onto your laptop, it would kill it. And so what this application does is it basically grabs tiles from a tile server. The tile server that I'm using in this one is Google's tile server. But I could have just as easily used Bing or OpenStreetMaps or something like that. But none of them quite do satellite the way Google does it. The only disadvantage to the Google thing is Google, even though it's public domain material since Keyhole Maps were the first to develop this style of mapping, that was a long time before Google Earth. Keyhole Maps was trying to gather every piece of aerial photography they could find. This was a way back in the 2000s, the noughties, the 2001, 2002 when they were doing that. But Google Earth kind of bought Keyhole, so a lot of this imagery is all sort of public domain, but there are now copyright symbols over it. But I suppose it is more up-to-date stuff, but they're basically getting it from tax-funded sources, so who owns that? It must be the people that stole all our taxes if they're claiming it's their property. But anyways, I'm using Google's tile server to stitch all these tiles together. So rather than having one big 4 billion pixel by 4 billion pixel image, I'm only downloading the tiles that you need, so that it doesn't kill your mobile phone while you're sort of viewing the earth. In saying that, the software isn't perfect, it's in beta mode. As you can see, these black squares are appearing. Now the reason for that is that when I'm zooming in, when I'm getting closer to the surface of the earth, the picture starts to get blurry because you're basically seeing a tile at a lower resolution than what would be ideal. So what it does is it says, this tile is too low a resolution, give me a more high resolution tile. So it goes to the tile server and it gets a higher resolution tile. Now while it's waiting for that higher resolution tile to arrive, it doesn't show anything. It should still be showing the lower resolution tile until such times as the higher resolution tile is available. That's why those black squares are appearing. And it is a glitch, but it's, it's beta mode. This isn't fully released yet. But it gives you some idea of what's possible. And obviously it's a flight simulator in a kind of sort of way, but it's also a map server. So, if you're into playing games, you might just want to, enjoy the flight simulator. If you're using touchscreen or a mouse, it gets a bit sort of choppy, because the mouse and the touchscreen were kind of put together at the last second just so I had something to publish on the live server. But ideally using a keyboard, if I was designing this specifically as a flight simulator, I would create the interface specifically for flight simulating purposes. But, the interface is just a general interface that can be used to show the capabilities of the engine and the engine is basically a GL engine combined with a maps engine. So all those tiles have like longitudes and latitudes, but actually they don't. They have web Mercator positions, and web Mercator gets mapped onto latitudes and longitudes, which later on gets mapped onto an OpenGL sphere. Well, it's actually a sphere that I produce rather than using. It gets a bit complicated, but there's a lot of mathematics involved in this. And it's not everyone that could produce like an OpenGL application. It's not everyone that could produce a website. It's not everyone that could produce a maps application. And that combined with it's not everyone that knows about the haulage industry. So potential avenues of research and development for this is turning this software into routing software. So what you're seeing there is rasterized map tiles. When the black square, that you see these black squares popping up every now and again, when those are filled in, that's basically a photograph. That a raster tile is what it's called. Now I could generate not a photograph but a map tile if I knew where to draw lines. So I could draw a line from, I don't know if you can see the mouse, but I put that point on the road centre screen to the point on the road which is now centre screen. I could know, those 2 points, the longitude and latitude of those 2 points, and then there's another point, I could put a bolt on of points together and draw lines between them. And if I could draw map tiles using vector tiles, which are available from things like OpenStreetMap, then I could use Dijkstra's algorithm in order to produce a routing application. And that would basically work out what is the shortest route or what is the fastest route using a weighted graph between nodes. Those nodes is the point between, where 2 roads meet, the cross section where they meet. So I could use those, OpenStreetMap tiles, vector tiles, to create a route that would ideally be for what's going to cost less petrol. Now, what's going to cost less petrol? If you're using Google Maps, it's pretty obvious you want to go the shortest route. But suppose you're in a truck and the shortest route is via a country road. Maybe you want to go the fastest route, and the fastest route is via a country road. But if you're in a truck using what we call them B roads in Britain, and they're usually about 60 mile per hour, give or take. Not every B road is 60 miles per hour, but if it's like a country road, you can go at 60 mile an hour in a car, and you can go at 60 mile in a truck. But if you're in a truck going at 60 mile an hour and there's trees and it's a wee teeny road, you're going to smash your mirrors. You can only really go quite slowly in a truck on those wee country roads, as we call them, the B roads. So, a routing application built by a trucker who can do OpenGL and who can do mapping and who can do websites would be a really good routing application for truckers and bus drivers. So, I'm figuring a potential source of revenue is going to come from haulage companies that maybe want to have their own routing application. That almost immediately, within the space of a week, I could have an application that's like a customer-focused website application that shows where is my parcel, and rather than looking at some 2-dimensional map, I could do a 2-dimensional map because some people's phones are a bit they're going to melt when it starts using OpenGL. But I could easily do this in a 2D map, or I could do it in a 3D map, so the customers can see, well, where is my parcel? And it's like, well, it's there, a wee icon on the map. All I would need to know is the GPS location of the delivery driver for that. And it'd be very simple for me to, create an app that automatically uploads GPS coordinates whenever the driver's got it switched on. Or if you've got a zebra or a scorpion or something like that, one of those, a point of an EPOD, an electronic point of distribution type phone sort of thing, then easily I could put code onto that would automatically upload that sort of data. I could have that ready within a week, if you're like a haulage company or a bus company, you want your customers to see where is my bus, where is my parcel. So and maybe within like 3 or 4 months, if I had dedicated time to dedicate to it, I could have like a routing application that's dedicated towards like long vehicles and high-sided vehicles. And other sources, like within a week, I could turn this into a space flight simulator game. But the problem with a space flight simulator game is like who's going to pay for it? So you remember this isn't an app, this is a website. And I'm figuring like, maybe like £1 a play if you want to put something onto PayPal. But ideally I want to know like, where am I going to make money from, So I'm figuring like haulage companies and stuff like that might find, what I've been developing here pretty useful. And there's potentially other uses. So I just want to show off, my software. And so go and visit my website. Additional news is I've got a guest writer for the website called Ethan Clark, and he's doing a wellness section. So that's a live website there. The flat earth section, that's where you want to go. If you go to the latest news and you click on the flat earth section, you get to see what you've just seen. So there's a bit of an interface, touchscreen interface and mouse interface, but it's not very good. But it was kind of put together at the last second as I was about to publish. But anyways, there's a new guest writer called Ethan Clark, and he does a wellness section. And that is his first article. Hopefully he's going to write more articles. But it's about wellness, and I don't know if you've seen my CV from time to time, which appears on the website, and basically in the sort of how do you keep the health and fitness section of it. I keep fit by smoking and playing video games. So this guy seems to know about wellness, which is a subject area I don't know anything about. And he's wrote an article for the website, so I'm quite happy with that. So that's what's been going on with the website. So I want you to visit it, and I want you to have a wee shot of the flight simulator, which is in that flat earth link there. So I'll be updating the front page of the website just shortly. I'll put a link to Ethan Clark's first article, and I'll put a section area specifically for the flat earth section, and you can watch the application as it develops, whatever direction it's going to develop in, So I really don't know what to do with it, whether to turn it into a flight simulator or whether to start doing vector tiles. Obviously there's a couple of bugs, like the first being like the touch screen and mouse interface aren't perfect. And the black squares, that's something that has to be sorted out. And you'll also notice that if you see where two different resolution tiles meet, you see white lines appearing, which is another glitch, but I think I could live with that glitch, to be quite honest with you, because I've seen, that happening on like Google Maps, not Google Maps, but Google Earth, and the reason is because like, when you're mapping onto a three-dimensional globe, the coordinates of the points of there's tiles and then there's subtitles, tiles and subtiles, and the points of the subtiles, if it's mapped onto like a high resolution 16 by 16 grid and it's edged against an 8 by 8 grid, then they're not at the exact same height, So that's the reason why those white things appear. And as for the tiles, the black tiles which appear, that's just something I left out, and it's something I keep meaning to fix, but I've had other things to do, like get a quick and nasty touchscreen interface going for it, and the solution to the black square problem is basically to keep the low resolution tile on the screen until the high resolution tile is available, and it's just something that I need to fix. So it's still kind of, I'd say that's like an alpha bug, but since it's published, it's now kind of like a beta bug, but it's like an alpha bug that has to be sorted. So beta bugs is basically, well, how does this work on an Apple device? You know, if you've got an Apple and you're using iOS, I've never touched an iOS, maybe you're using Chrome. I've tested it in Chrome on my own Android and it seems to be working fine. You know, maybe you're using Edge on Windows. I've never tested it on Edge. Now, one of the problems with this is on the live version, the Earth is moving really fast here. It's not really, it's because we are moving really fast through our space. Or it could be just because the Earth is spinning really fast. See, what happened was I was driving, I got caught with the police speeding, and the policeman asked, "What speed do you think I was doing? What speed do you think you were doing there?" And I says, "Well, I'm braking and I was going eastward, so and I was doing about, my guess is maybe about, tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong here, officer. I think I was doing 25,000 miles per day. I'm not sure how many miles per hour that is, but I was doing like that kind of speed, give or take, maybe about 70 miles per hour. I was going kind of fast. I was definitely going over the speed limit. That's because the Earth is spinning at 25,000 miles per day. On the live version which you were viewing there, the Earth is spinning, so when you get really close, you're going at the speed of space. The Earth is going at the speed that the Earth is going. On this, you know, non-live version, which you will get to see, the Earth is pretty still. And I think the lights are on in the live version. And by lights meaning the lights being on. As you can see, it is dark on the right hand side there. Whereas on the development version, the lights are on, there isn't any shadow. So, I prefer the development version, but that's because I'm a developer, you know. But I think it's more aesthetically pleasing to look at this. In the full development mode, there's all sorts of, on the side of the screen, you see all the data for it. It's kind of like looking at the green text in the matrix, you know. And I like seeing all that data passing through as things change, you know. So I'm just wanting to show you the latest. It's not my new website, it's an old website, but it's the latest developments to it. And potentially, you know, if this goes well, this is going to be the front page of the website, but my feeling is that might not be a good idea, because when I've did other OpenGL things, people complained that their phones were getting hot, because, you know, the ARM processor, as far as its ordinary RISC processing is concerned, you know, the ordinary CPU stuff, that stuff is as cool as a cucumber. But when they're introducing like graphical things into the processors, those are not really designed to be, you know, working at really cool high performance, low energy use. So that tends to get really hot when you're using like GPU, graphic processor units. So I'm not sure if this would be a good idea to put on as, like, you know, a site that's going to be a front page for a phone to visit. But potentially, if it is cool enough for your phone, yeah, I've got a cheap Android and it does warm it a bit, but it's not too bad. But, you know, is that going to be the same for everybody's phone? It's a new cheap Android, because I had to get rid of my old cheap Android because, well, it was a cheap Android and it was 4G, but when it was doing telephone calls and when it was doing text messages, it wasn't communicating in 4G, it was communicating in 3G, and it was only using 4G for the sake of data. So Network 3, that's my internet service provider, they switched off their 3G networks and my 4G phone stopped working because it was cheap and nasty. So it's a brand new cheap Android and it's cool enough on that. So, you know, maybe it could be used for a front screen if it's cool enough on other people's machines. But, you know, I really need beta testers to, you know, tell me, does it work in this device? Does it work at this screen resolution? Is there things that I've not noticed because I'm used to development mode? So, you know, if you're interested in getting involved, if you want to write guest articles and stuff like that, you know, get in touch. And the best way for you to get in touch is in the, you know, the front page. The best way is there's an answering machine. So just, you know, click on the record button of the answering machine and you can see your voice is showing up as a wave, and that is basically being recorded. Right now, there's nothing being sent. This is the live site. There is nothing being sent to the site right now. This is just recording your voice. Well, it's recording my voice onto the website. Sorry, it's recording my voice onto my browser at present. And when I click stop, it's still on the browser at present, and I can play back what was stored on the browser. And if I want to actually send myself a message, which I'm not going to do, I would just click the send button, and it's only at that point where it's too late to delete the message on this answering machine. So if you're a haulage company, or if you're a buyer for a haulage company, or if you get a small haulage company, if you want to, you know, if maybe you're a games developer, or maybe you want to get involved with the website, write articles, the best way to get in touch is via the answering machine. But I've also got an email address which can be found in the contact page. That my email address can be found there. So you know, that's my video for today. Thanks very much for listening. So leave some comments and let me know what you think. Thank you.